This is Unofficially Official. I'm Star Miller, and
I'm Mayor Mike.
we want to welcome you to our podcast where we fully intend to educate you on all things local. Welcome back to Unofficially Official. We are recording today. This is podcast 3, but we must begin with Go Big Red. Because when we record this is the morning after we won.
And this is a big day for people like and unfortunately like a Paul Beretta, a Jim Payne. Those people have waited their whole lives for
absolutely
a night like last night. Unfortunately, they weren't around to experience it. But you had the Dave Molson and Barb Molson who went down to Florida and enjoyed it.
I love that so many fans were there.
I was telling somebody, they asked me, why are you rooting for IU? Well, I'm rooting for IU because my wife's an IU grad.
That's right.
There's a million people we know around here that are IU people. So
look at me and Kyle Gardner.
Yeah.
We're both IU people.
Do we have to? Do we have to work?
I'm the odd man out. I don't have on IU today. No, but that's awesome. I hope that it is a movie one day because it's an excellent story.
Amazing story.
Amazing story. And now we're going to transition into something that's not nearly as much fun to talk about, which is...
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, is it called the food and beverage tax?
Yes.
Okay, so before we recorded this, you both had to kind of explain this in its entirety to me. So we're going to try to explain it in a way that will make sense.
Hopefully in a way that's non-threatening.
Correct.
Yes. And this caused a decent amount of controversy over the last couple weeks. And quite honestly, that controversy is my responsibility. And the reason why is we had on numerous being a couple occasions, once they did the circuit breaker, which was under Mitch Daniels, they came back and said, hey, here's some ways you can make up that funding you've lost. And one of them is going to be, if you want to, you can get a food and beverage tax. Mm-hmm. And so we applied a couple times, and both times what they used to do is they would dump it in with a bill that other communities were involved in.
Okay.
And each time we were dumped in with more controversial projects than ours. Mm-hmm. And so it died 2 different times, but it didn't really create a stir here locally.
May I ask why do they do that? Why do they do that?
I think it was just
stronger in numbers.
Well, if you pay attention, there's like 1,800 bills that get introduced every session, and so they're trying to weed it down. And so they'll take let's say there's 12 food and beverage, they'll just lump them all together.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay.
The problem is it's easy to vote no for the really bad one.
Sure.
And so that's what happened. And we came back and
so that happened twice.
Yeah, happened twice, and it really wasn't very controversial here locally. And quite honestly, that was probably. The thing that caused this conflict, because in talking to Representative Criswell, he said, is there anything out of this session you need? And I said, well, it'd be nice to have at least have an option if that's something we want to do. And he said, well, I can write that legislation. And I said, thanks, I appreciate it. And
he did not throw something.
I don't know what just happened.
I don't either, but go on.
But anyway, I thought, well, for our sake, we'll ask him. And he did what every legislator would do, is he said, I'm going to start it where it's approved at the top and then kind of moves down. And so he said, I'm going to write this legislation so that it's Rush County. Mm-hmm. And then if Rush County decides, well, we don't want to participate, if we don't want to collect the money and tell you where the money goes, then we'll drop it to the municipality.
Okay.
Those incorporated municipalities, which would leave it Rushville, Carthage, Glenwood.
Okay.
And quite honestly, probably neither of them have enough capacity that they would do it. So in my mind, I thought, well, this is great. It'll go to the county. County will make a decision whether they want it or not. And then if they don't, it'll drop to us. And then the council will get to make that call. Mm-hmm. But the problem was, and again, Mike Pavy's fault, I didn't...
Say it louder.
Yeah. I didn't let the county know. I didn't let the commissioners know, and I didn't let the county council know that, hey, by the way, I'm having this authored.
Okay.
And so whenever it came out, of course, the Indianapolis media, for whatever reason, picked up some stories, and they were like, hey, Rush County Council President, what do you think of the food and beverage tax? And, of course, the pushback is, that's not us. And it was like, shoot. I think I've caused a controversy here that I wish I wouldn't have. And so I went on a tour. I called it the apology tour, where I went to both entities and said, "Hey,
Great
sorry."
apology tour.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the conflict of it all.
And so, what's the end result of that?
Well, initially, when we wrote it a couple other times, our hope was that we were going to spend that money on higher education, Ivy Tech.
Right.
But since then, I say that was years ago. Since then, we have an Ivy Tech presence that we're happy with.
That's thriving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we thought, well, this would be a great opportunity. A lot of the businesses, a lot of people who bring family in during holidays, will talk about, man, we need options in the lodging world. Mm-hmm. And so that was maybe one of the things that we thought, maybe that's something we can motivate some movement in.
Because currently in the city of Rushville, there is one
Quality
hotel.
Inn.
Okay,
Yeah, Quality
one
Inn.
hotel.
And you're getting some Airbnb pieces out
Sure.
there, but you're not getting a big influx of a bunch. So that's, and you have to understand, like Diamond, Train, Copeland, Intat, all bring people in.
And sometimes people who just travel, they like to have a very centralized location, neutral, like a hotel. They like to know that's what they know what to expect, I guess.
And so what it amounts to is it would be 1% on your food and beverage that you would, eat or drink at local restaurants. And then that would go towards a fund that would allow us to move forward. And in the past, we've always kind of thrown some money at tourism, but it's always been just money out of our general fund that we thought we could, move around.
And maybe we thought we should revitalize our downtown that was crumbling before we did that.
So right now we have, like I say, we threw small amounts, but they weren't impactful. They weren't going to change anything, and they weren't going to fund anything. And I think you've got some people out there working in the tourism world, but they're not funded. And we thought it would be a nice, kind of a nice project to move forward. And people might say, well, do the food, the food establishments like Fish Moon and El Reparo, and do those people, do they want it? Well, they should, because if we're out there promoting people to come to town to eat and drink, that's more business to them. And so anyway, I would
assume that the concern there, I mean, I'm just going out on a limb here, but
sure.
I would assume that the concern there would be from the restaurant owner that they would fear that their that business would be deterred from coming due to this increase in cost, right?
Yeah. And
it is 1%.
Yeah, it is 1%. Like a $40 bill is 40 cents. And like this weekend, went to a restaurant in Wanamaker,
Shelby County, 2%.
And there was 2%. Yeah, and so
has that always been so, or how long has it been so? Do you know in Shelbyville?
I don't. Well, I think this is what I think, and this is one where I don't quote me on this one as far as.
Will.
Yeah, it's already happening. I think your counties around Indianapolis, they are required to do a 1%, and that 1% goes to the Capital Improvement Board, which is the Lucas Oil. So
they have that in place as a support for the business that happens within the municipality.
Correct. And then there's the second percent, which is they're able to do a 1% for themselves that they get to use.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the second percent. So 1% goes to Lucas Oil in downtown Indianapolis. The other 1% goes to local efforts that they have that they've targeted for their 1%.
And so we were talking before we started this podcast about kind of the other side of the circle of this story, because there is more to it than just the increase 1%, right? The extra cost or the worry concerning that, because the reason for these things being proposed and happening are because you can then, you explain it, I probably won't explain it very well, but that can be used as leverage in future business endeavors to attract people to the municipality to put roots down where their business is concerned.
Yeah, it allows you to do marketing. It allows you to develop incentives. If a company came in and said, you know what, we need this for the first 3 years, then we feel like after 3 years we're over the hump. You could tailor things like that to kind of very specifically, address the needs of somebody who may say, hey, we're going to come in here. And believe it or not, some of the times I think people are get the impression that the ask is huge. Some of the times the asks aren't very big. And so you just kind of, you're not going to jump on the first one, but you sit back and you go, and you probably put together a commission that said, hey, what are we going to spend these funds on? Where do we want the money to go? So that there's some oversight of what was going on. There'd be a budget created. So anyway, that's
and
that's
do you
what
feel
we
too?
thought.
I mean, we're kind of in the time of great budget cuts, so it seems as though if there were opportunity that opened up for funding or more funding of any variety, you would hop on that.
Yeah, I think that's what, and I've told people this, anybody willing to listen, is last year was, hey, by the way, we're going to restrict everything you have as far as funding. And guys understand that there are some areas where you say, man, I guess we'll just do without that.
Right. Just like in a household, right? Yes.
But then there are areas that you go, you can't do without that one. And so what we're trying to do is to kind of reprioritize, and once we prioritize, figure out how do we create funding for those things. And most of them, they're not frivolous things. They are police and fire protection. They are stormwater management. They are trash fees. So there's a lot of different things. So yeah, I think as the governor comes in and makes the promise of, hey, we're going to cut taxes, first of all, he cuts property taxes, which is not where the state's funded. Right. He's funded out of sales tax. So he's making this, hey, I'm going to cut your taxes, but it's a very specific one that's going towards the local government. Right. And so, yeah, we're trying to figure out, okay, out of that, what do we think is a priority? How do we refund it? Not refund it, give it back, but how do we fund it differently? And so, it's like me promising, if I went out there and said, you know what, I am going to give everybody $100,000 for mill drill. Then everybody's going to say, well, that's...
Josh's heart just skipped a beat somewhere
everybody's
in
going to say, the mayor's the greatest guy in the world. Do you see what he just did? He's giving us $100,000. And Josh is going, wait a second. Right. That's not your money. You're giving him my money. And I think that's how local government feels right now. It's that, hey, and I think people, I say this all the time, people always, it's easy to say, yeah, that's a great idea. It's really tough when you say, hey, by the way, you wanted to take, if it's your personal budget, I want to take, out of the entertainment side, I want to take $300 a month out of that. I don't want to use that. And then all of a sudden, your favorite artist comes to town and you say, oh, shoot. Yeah. I can't go to that concert because I don't have the money put there anymore.
Well, there's always, push and pull, right? Give and take on
and so that's what
everything.
That's what it is the local governments right now are going through that push and pull, that give and take. And I think a little bit on the food and beverage tax, and I don't blame him. I think a lot of what the county's, reaction to it was, hey, we don't want to be associated with, governor said he's cutting our taxes.
Which is understandable.
And now the mayor says he's going to put more, So, again, I think the most important thing is
Might I be the one to say also, though, that things often get lost in transit?
Right. No. And I think this is one that it's an avoidable thing. If you don't want to pay the taxes, you don't have to. You don't.
Correct. Because we talked about this before we started recording. It's almost, what I would consider like a leisure tax, right?
Sure.
Like it's, and unfortunately, that probably is where things would have to be hit first as far as on the budget.
Look at the prices. Look at the prices of big ticket items.
Like concert tickets.
Well, right now, one of the biggest ones. My wife would ask me, why are gas prices higher in Indiana than they are in Kentucky? The refining costs the exact same amount. But you know what we do? We put 30 cents a gallon or whatever on those gas fees to pay for road improvements. And so why was it that, it was just a few months ago that cigarettes and anything tobacco related went up 41%.
Dang.
That's what in government we call a sin tax. That says we're going to tax alcohol, we're going to tax cigarettes because you guys are committing a sin, and we're going to tax you because
Is it still called that?
Well, some people do.
Wow. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I've never heard this before. I like
so those are some of the things that you realize that gas prices are the reason they are. It's not because of the price of gas. It's because of how much taxes we place on them to provide services you say you want as a citizen. The same thing in the tax, the tobacco world is everybody says, well, people shouldn't smoke. Our health needs to be better. And so we're going to support those health programs through this tax on that bad behavior. And so that's what you got.
That's government Ladies and gentlemen, that's government.
Government 101.
Should we also say, though, too, that this is not in place yet?
No,
Okay.
it was just really what it really was
A slow news day? Oh,
true. that it was part of that. But I think it was just us asking for the ability to take it to the council to see if the council was willing to do it. But it hasn't passed out of the state legislature.
Sure.
And so there's no decision that needs to be made at this point. And so, yeah, it was just
an option to
it was
consider.
asking for an option, and that option had been promised that we would have it, 12, 16 years ago. And
So what does happen next then? You just wait to hear?
Yeah.
Until they're finished with the session? Is that what it's called? Okay,
that's
good.
exactly right.
Yay. We do want to remind our faithful listeners that should you have a topic that you would like to discuss or ask questions about, you may do so. You can email us at unofficiallyofficialpod@gmail.com. You will get a response, says Kyle Garner. No, we will respond to you. But we really do welcome points of conversation, points of topic to discuss. So, and that's all for today. That wraps up this episode of Unofficially Official. We thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, you can subscribe to our show on your streaming platform of choice.